Hello YouTube, this is the Bucket coming at you today with a unique and rare gun, the Hudson H9. A couple months back, John from Nap Weaponry, he went to pick up his P5 and he said, hey, I've got another thing I'd like you to have a chance to take a run at for the channel. And he gave me his Hudson H9. Now in 2017, Hudson, a new gun manufacturer, came to SHOT Show and brought the Hudson H9. Now this is a cool and different looking gun, and it kind of took the gun world by storm, and they started selling the bejeebers out of these things. Let's talk a little bit about what this is. You got a steel frame, you got a steel slide, you got a steel barrel, you've got a blacked out rear, high-vis front sight, you got rear slide serrations, front side serrations. The overall specs on this gun are 15 round in the double stack magazine capacity. You've got an overall length of 7.625 inches. The barrel length is 4.28 inches. The overall width is 1.24 inches. The height is 5.225 inches. And the weight is 34 ounces. The idea was a lot of steel is going to soak up a lot of recoil. The other thing that you'll notice is that this protrusion on the dust cover looks a little different. Well, what they did is they dropped down the recoil spring and made a fixed recoil rod and spring. So when the gun reciprocates, it's putting that recoil impulse directly into your hand and into your arm. And that would allow, for them to lower the bore axis, but also take some of that recoil impulse and put it directly into your arm, supposedly making it a really, really soft shooter. Now, what ended up happening with this gun is they wanted to start coming out with an aluminum frame one, and when they partnered with another company to start to produce the aluminum frames and some of their parts, that was the exact same time that some of the guns that they had initially put out to market were starting to get returned, which isn't completely unheard of. A lot of guns and new gun manufacturers, when they have a new design, especially something that's a little bit different, they end up having some returns and some maintenance work needs to be done on it. Well, that, along with coming out with a whole nother frame, ended up putting them in some financial trouble, and in March of 2019 they declared bankruptcy, which would usually be the death knell for a design of a gun like this. But Daniel Defense saw the benefits of this design, saw how many people were excited about this design, and they ended up picking up the rights to it. And here in 2024, they ended up re-releasing the H9 with a lot of different upgrades and modifications. I think those are really exciting guns, but I want to talk about the Hudson H9. So again, you've got this heavy gun, you've got a striker fire system, but what made it really, really cool is it had a 1911 style trigger. Now there is a pivot up here, that's the dingus, that's the safety, but once you take that up, you got a little bit of slop, and then it breaks directly to the rear, and you have a nice short reset for your trigger, allowing you for more pew. So me and Tanfolio and my brother-in-law Pony, we took this to the range today, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, this gun, you put it in your hand, it feels great in the hand. It's a little slick. There's not a lot of grip texture or whatnot. There is a little bit of front slide serrations and rear slide serrations, but the grip panels that they give you are pretty smooth. Now, you could replace these grip panels, and they actually did have a couple of companies that were making different grip panels for these. The sights are really easy to pick up, and again, it is a natural pointer. As far as reliability went, I did have a couple of failures. Now, John told me that this had probably only had 50 to 100 rounds put through it, so there may have been the natural break-in period, and it wasn't like horribly. I think I had, out of 200 rounds, I think I had 2 malfunctions, 1 stovepipe and 1 failure to feed. As far as did the lower recoil and the lower bore axis make a difference, I could tell. It was a soft shooting gun. It made it for it to be a natural pointer, and follow-up shots were a little bit easier. I'll tell you, I've run a couple staccatos, a Bull Armory, my DWX. This trigger isn't as good as any of those, but I'll tell you, it was probably on par with my Tissos DS. So it isn't a bad trigger at all, and I could see why somebody would just love taking this thing to the range. As far as accuracy goes, it was not the most accurate handgun ever. This is the accuracy that I ended up getting with it. I was shooting a little bit low, and the group was a little bit wider. Now, some people will say, well, the bucket, were you just the litter box today? I also took out my Sauer 38H and got a better group, and then my VP9SK and got a better group today. So neither one of those are the best triggers in the world, and I ended up being able to hit a little bit more accurately with those. I'll tell you, the biggest concern that I had was with this not being my gun. I was very concerned about parts breakages. I wanted to get this back to John with it still running, because the problem with the company going belly up is now nobody's making the parts anymore. So if something broke on this gun, it would be really, really hard to get it replaced. Let's show you how you do takedown for field stripping and cleaning. This is a captive takedown pin, and it does need to be pushed out. Once you hear that click, you will see that it is out a little bit more. You can then rotate it down, drop the slide, pull the trigger, and this slide will come right on off. You'll see it is a striker fired system. The recoil spring is much lower. It is captive. Nothing comes out. It's in there. I wouldn't wrench on it or anything, I don't think. As far as the barrel goes, it's a high quality barrel with good rifling. And you can see that the machining on this gun was done really well. I mean, if I was to make a guess, I'm just guessing that some of the companies that they partnered with to make some of their parts just didn't have quite the same tolerances that they probably should have. So that's what I would guess it happened, and they just never got around to getting the right vendors that were going to end up taking care of it. So as you can see, like right now, occasionally you'll get into the gun and the recoil spring will not be lined up perfectly. So you do kind of have to jiggle it a little bit. And I'm gonna have to take it off camera a little bit to get it right on, but just a little jiggle will get you back to where it needs to go. Then you put the takedown lever back up and then just push it in. Then you can go ahead and function check your firearm. It's not a terrible takedown, just takes a little getting used to. Again, I think it was a cool gun. I think it's a cool design, and I think there was a reason Daniel Defense ended up wanting to see this gun come up to its full potential. So it was a lot of fun. I just say, if you're thinking about picking one up, just be a little concerned about replacement parts, because they were kind of known for having some breakages. As far as what you get in the box, you get the cool foam pad. You get a nice manual here. It's black and white. They did have some red accents that they put into it, but a nice manual for sure. And then it did come with 3 15-round magazines. And I used to own one of these like 3 or 4 years ago. I thought the mags were really high quality. I think they did a good job with those. I don't think Hudson was a bad company. I just think they had some bad luck and then ended up in a situation where they couldn't deal with some recall issues. So I do want to thank you guys for supporting the channel. All the likes, the comments, the shares are really appreciated. And as always, you stay classy, YouTube.
Little middle baby bucket. Do you want to live in California?
No!
Why?
Because I'm not